welcome back to my channel. This is Rara's K-pop spot. 안녕하세요 친구들. 내 채널에 다시 오신 것을 환영합니다. 이것은 Rara's K-pop spot. I am very excited about today's video. It was not planned. This week is not a week that I normally would post since I post every other week on Rara's K-pop spot, but I was too excited. I felt like I needed to film this and upload it as soon as possible because I feel like it's a super hot topic right now online. Everyone is watching K-pop Demon Hunters and I had to break my regularly scheduled programming to make a video to talk about it because I've literally watched it 3 times over the last 3 days and I love it just as much as it seems like everyone else online loves it. And I have so many thoughts about it that I needed to make a video about it as soon as possible. I really feel like this movie was made for me because I obviously love K-pop, clearly you're watching Rara's K-pop spot, but also foundational to my youth was the Shadowhunters universe. I read all of the books. I was very deeply obsessed with the Shadowhunters universe. It really started when I was a freshman or sophomore in high school, and as soon as I turned 18, I went out and got a Shadowhunters inspired tattoo. So demon hunting and demon hunters is critical to my lore as a human because I was raised on the Shadowhunters universe. So anyway, when I saw K-pop Demon Hunters come up on Netflix when I was scrolling right after it came out, I was like, what? What do you mean that 2 of my biggest, nerdiest interests have combined to make one big, mega Rara nerdy interest fun time? I think it came out on June 20th, and I actually didn't watch it until this past, this most recent weekend, which was the very end of June. I didn't watch it for the first time until almost 10 days after it came out. So I had a week to watch people online just generate more and more buzz about it and talk about it because obviously I have a lot of mutuals online who are also K-pop fans. So I saw all of my friends online posting about it and talking about how much they loved it, so it only made me more and more excited to watch it. And I have so many thoughts. So today what we're going to do is talk about my thoughts because this is my virtual diary, right? So we're gonna yap about everything that I think about it, and then we're going to talk about how you can fill the void that it left behind. If like me, you were okay, what now? What next? I need more of something like this. I have some various recommendations to share of things that I think could help you fill the void that K-pop Demon Hunters has left in your life now that you can no longer watch it again for the very first time. You could watch it over and over as many times as you want, but you can never watch it for the first time again. And that sucks. But that's okay. I have several good recommendations to share that could hopefully help fill the void while we wait for news about a sequel, confirmation of a sequel. Without further ado, I'm going to now word vomit all of my thoughts that I had. First, we have to talk about the soundtrack. I, growing up, was kind of a big movie soundtrack listener, but I couldn't tell you the last time that I felt compelled to seek out a TV show or a movie soundtrack and listen to it independently of watching whatever it was that I was consuming at the time. But the soundtrack for K-pop Demon Hunters is incredible. It is so good. This is the first time in years that I have actually gone to Spotify and I've looked up a film or a TV show soundtrack and been I want to listen to this in my free time. How it's done, incredibly powerful as an opener to the film. I was okay, you have me hooked just from the music. I don't even care how good the story is. Opening the movie with how it's done, I said, all right, you've got my attention for the next 90 minutes. Golden was very empowering. So how it's done was powerful, Golden was empowering. I've listened to that song and I feel like I can do anything. I am invincible, nothing can take me down when I'm listening to Golden. Soda Pop is obviously super catchy. Like Mira says, it's infectious. But I personally love I don't know if it would be satire or double entendre, but the way that it is this super cute, fun, catchy song, but the lyrics have this double-sided meaning of literally stealing the souls of their fans. You know, with lyrics like, I need you to fill me up, and you could be everything that I need, taste so sweet. Super cute and catchy on the surface level when you're just listening to the song, but then when you actually stop and think about the lyrics, I think it's super funny that they wrote this catchy song that if you take it literally, they're literally talking about, you fill me up, I'm gonna eat your soul and then I'm gonna feel so full after. So I thought that was very punny on the writer's part. Takedown is 100% a super fire diss track. but I also 100% see why Rumi did not want to sing it because it is super hateful. Compared to all of the other songs that Huntrix sings in the movie, Takedown is full of anger and hatred, so I can see why Rumi did not want to sing that one, especially, like Zoe said, how can they expect it to unite their fans when it can't even unite them as a group? Free, which was the duet between Jinu and Rumi, I'm just going to leave this meme here to showcase how I feel about it. Words can't do it justice. This is how I feel about it. Your Idol goes so hard. That final performance from the Saja boys of Your Idol was so good. I cannot believe they wrote a song that goes that hard in an animated K-pop movie. Also, some of the lyrics got me thinking, like, why is some of this hitting too close to home? I definitely, from the two Saja boy songs that we have, I like Your Idol better than Soda Pop. What It Sounds Like is probably my favorite song from the whole movie. It is so powerful. I listen to it and it like gives me goosebumps. It makes like tears prickle in the backs of my eyes. It is such a good song and such a powerful way to close out the film. Just like, you know, How It's Done was a super strong opener, What It Sounds Like is such a perfect way to close out the film. It's just such a good song. Okay, soundtrack is incredible. Even if you don't watch the movie, I think everyone would enjoy the soundtrack because the songs are genuinely good. Now, other thoughts that I had while I was watching the movie. In the very opening, when Celine's narration is explaining who the Hunters are and what they do, I love that their voices are meant to connect people as a form of protection. It really shows how K-pop brings people together. Celine's narration literally uses phrases like singing songs of courage and hope, voices to drive back the darkness, and music that ignites the soul and brings people together. And those are all things that I feel are true for me when I think about my relationship with K-pop. It is something that has connected me to so many people that I never would have met or formed connections with without having this commonality of enjoying K-pop music together. And I discovered K-pop during one of the worst years of my life, so I do feel like it was a light in the darkness for me when I found it. And I just love that message of the Hunters and their voices and their music being something that is so inspiring to people and helps them form connections and form bonds and bring them together and like protect them from the darkness of the world. I think that that was like so beautiful as an opening message to the movie. I also really appreciated all of the inclusion of K-pop related terminology like maknae, lead dancer, visual, rapper, debut. They even included things like hube, which is the Korean word for juniors, like your junior group. When Huntrix is congratulating the Saja boys, they say, we came to congratulate our hubes. So they included tons of really great K-pop specific terminology, so I loved getting to see all of that in the film. I also loved all of the Korean cultural inclusions throughout the film. There were tons of references to Korean foods like kimbap and ramyeon. There were lots of scenes that included the Korean historical architecture of the Hanoks. We know that Jinu is at least 400 years old, and so the fact that when he and the other Saja boys are in their demon forms in the demon world, and then in their final performance of Your Idol, they're wearing the traditional Korean hats, which are called huklip or kat, are the Korean words for that style of hat. And you can actually learn a lot more about this traditional style of Korean hat from Junher. She has a whole reel about it on her Instagram. She's one of my favorite Korean authors. She even, on her cover of A Crane Among Wolves, the male main character, Daehyun, is wearing a kat, and she has a lot of really good information about this traditional style of hat that is associated with Korean history, so I loved seeing that inclusion. There was the inclusion of the bathhouses, or mokgyokdang. They even included some landmarks like Namsan Tower. So I just loved how rich the cultural inclusions were throughout the film. I was so excited when I learned that An Hyo-sup was voicing Jinu because I'm a huge fan of Business Proposal. That was the very first true K-drama that I ever watched, so I have a lot of love in my heart for Business Proposal. When the song that plays at the end of every Business Proposal episode came on, like that little cameo moment, I freaked out. I was like, no way they included this. That is so funny. And so it just, having seen Business Proposal made that inclusion that much more impactful. When it started playing, I was like, they did not do this, but they did, and it was good. And that song plays during what looks like it would be Jinu and Rumi's meet cute moment. It has the slow motion K-drama vibes, and she's falling. You think that he's going to catch her and help her up, and they're gonna have this dramatic slow motion K-drama meet cute, but then they subvert it entirely, and Rumi falls on her butt, and it looks like Jinu is gonna reach out and help her, and then he just brushes his shoulder. It was hilarious. I just love the way that they kind of poked fun at that a little bit. The movie itself is just so funny. There were several moments that had me actually laughing out loud while I was watching. One of them being when Huntrix surprises Saja boys on the variety show, and they bring in the slides, and they're trying to like go down the slides in their hunter outfits, and Zoe goes, "The leather has betrayed us." I laughed out loud at that. Also, and part of that scene when they're on the variety show, the bowing competition between the Saja boys and Huntrix was hilarious. Like, who can bow the farthest? It was so funny. It's just a very funny movie if you're into comedy. The first thing that really made me, I guess, do this, like clutch at my heart, was when Jinu covers up Rumi's pattern after the variety show when they chase the Saja boys into the bathhouse and Rumi leaves Mira and Zoe to chase after Jinu. He scratches open her jacket and you can see some of her patterns, and he can tell that she's hesitant to help Mira and Zoe because she doesn't want them to see her patterns, so he like sweeps her up into this embrace and ties a little scrap of fabric around her pattern so that her group mates won't see that she has patterns. I was like, wait a second, that was very sweet. Bobby as a side character was my fave. His unwavering support of the girls was so pure, and Ken Jeong is actually one of my favorite actors. He is so funny, so I was super excited to see that he was included in this film as a voice actor as well. I just loved Bobby's character so much. The little tiger demon, and the bird as well, but like specifically that tiger demon, was so funny and so cute. I loved that inclusion so much as just a voiceless side character. Tigers are my favorite animal, and they have been for as long as I can remember. My phone case literally has a tiger on it. I was born in the year of the tiger, so I have always felt connected to tigers, and that little tiger demon was probably my favorite part of the whole film. Now I have a few notes to mention about some of the names that the writers chose to give different things throughout the movie. I got very curious because the second time I watched it with the subtitles on so I could see the romanized spelling for things like Honmun and Saja and Kima, and I wanted to understand the romanized spelling so that I could try to go into Papago and spell it how I think it sounds phonetically in Hangul. I have to say, I don't know if this is all 100% correct because I was literally just taking the English spelling of these words and converting them into Hangul based on how they sounded, but the translations that I found make sense, so I hope that this is right. Of course, as always, if I've gotten it wrong, anyone can feel free to correct me in the comments. But the first thing that I was curious about was the Honmun, and when I typed, so I did it like this, I'll put it down here. This was how I spelled it in Hangul, and when I put this into Papago, the first thing that came up when I put them together did not make sense. But then when I separated the syllables and I looked up Hon and Moon, when you look at them separately, it makes sense. So Hon in Korean could be translated as soul or spirit, and Moon looks like it could be translated as door or gate. So the Hon Moon is like a spirit gate, which I think makes sense because the Hon Moon is what keeps the demons locked in the demon world and protects the human world. So I think that that was really cool that Honmun could mean soul door, spirit gate, something like that. You can put the words together and see which one maybe makes the most sense across translation. I'm not sure, but I thought that was super cool. The next thing that I wanted to look up was Gima's name because I actually recognized the Gi character. I know is related to ghosts and demons because I know that the word Grishin is the word for ghost or demon. So I had a feeling that the Gri in Gima was related to the Gri in Grishin for ghost and demon, but then the Ma, I was not sure how to translate that. When I translated Gima, it came through as like earworm. So I don't know if that is 100% correct. Maybe it's just supposed to be some kind of form of demon, like the word demon or ghost. But when it translated through Papago as earworm, I thought that was very interesting because Jinu is always talking about how he can hear Gima talking in his ear. He's like, can't you hear him whispering in your ear? So if it's true and Gima can be translated as earworm, I think that was very clever, because Gima is just this like voice in your ear that just speaks so negatively and hatefully to you. So I thought that was super interesting. That's the one that I'm maybe the most concerned that I didn't translate it correctly. But if I did, I think that that was genius on the writer's part. And then Saja is the Korean word for lion. So that's why the Saja boys, their logo is a lion, and they talk about their fandom as being part of the pride, like join the pride, like a pride of lions. So I thought that that was just, you know, a direct translation, Saja boys, lion boys. But in this last week, I've seen lots of really wonderful Korean content creators and Korean authors talking about this movie, and Kat Cho actually explained that related to Korean mythology, the underworld is called Jeoseung, and the figure of the Reaper in Korean mythology takes the form of a Saja, from what I understand. But I think that makes a lot of sense for the movie, and so you have this Saja Reaper imagery associated with the underworld, and so I think that that seems like it was an intentional name to give the Saja boys for that reason. The more you know. I love learning stuff like this. Learning these types of details just makes my enjoyment that much greater every time I watch it again, because it's like having this knowledge makes you appreciate the movie more and makes you appreciate the writing and the thought and intentionality that went into the creation of this film. And then towards the end of the movie, when everyone is making their way to Namsan Tower for the final Saja Boys performance, I think that the way that Gima is depicted as whispering in everyone's ears things related to how they feel when they're at their lowest, or like their deepest, darkest fears and thoughts, I think was actually a really good way to depict how our own inner demons speak to us. Sometimes, at least for me, I related to that a lot. Sometimes I have this voice in my head that sounds like me, and it's like telling me things that I just know are not true. I just really related to the way that it was people's own voices whispering in their ears, and it didn't sound like Gima, it sounded like themselves. Like Mira's voice in her head saying that she doesn't deserve a family. I thought that was a really real way to represent how our inner demons can try to talk to us and make us believe things that aren't true. For an animated movie, I feel like that got pretty deep. I loved the message of acceptance at the end of the film when Rumi comes back and she's covered in her patterns, and just the message of accepting yourself and loving yourself for who you are, fears and faults and all. I think that's always a really good, powerful message in any form of media. And I do believe that we should all love ourselves no matter what, including our fears and faults. So it really resonated with me. When it comes to the end of the film, I do feel like this would be my one critique of the film. I do feel like the ending came across a little bit rushed. I wish that the movie had been a little bit longer, or I actually really wish that this had been a TV show. I think it would have done great as a TV show, so we had a little bit more time to fully flesh out the characters and the storylines. So I did feel like the ending was a little bit rushed together, but it was also very reminiscent of the ending of a duology called The Monsters of Verity by V.E. Schwab. If you've ever read those two books, I don't want to spoil them, but the very ending of this movie feels very reminiscent of the end of Our Dark Duet. And that's all that I'm gonna say about that. And while obviously I, like Rumi, wanted to see Jinu be freed, I think that the ending that his character got is really the only ending that he could have had to have a redemption arc. After what he did to his mom and his little sister 400 years ago, I think that that was really the only thing that he could do to redeem himself of that. Rumi might have already thought that he was redeemed, but for him to feel redeemed in what he had done to them, and for him to set himself free, I think that that was the only ending that he could have gotten. One outstanding question that I did have at the end of the film is what happened to the bracelet that the woman gave to Ruby and Jinu when they were out meeting for maybe the second time. Rumi was going to take it, but then Jinu grabs her wrist and Rumi winds up giving the bracelet to him. Right before the Saja boys leave the underworld and go back to the human world for their performance of Your Idol, the tiger demon is standing right next to Jinu and it's holding the bracelet in its teeth. And so I've watched the Your Idol performance so many times, and Jinu is wearing a bracelet, but it doesn't look to me like the bracelet that he and Rumi shared in that moment. And then after the performance, Rumi is not seen wearing it either. And the very last shot that we have of the tiger demon no longer has the bracelet either. So I am very interested in the bracelet. I want to know what happened to it. Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's super insignificant, but I just thought it was interesting that the tiger demon was holding it in its mouth right next to Jinu before they came up for their Your Idol performance. And then the last thought that I had that I thought was just a very sweet way to end the film is the tiger demon and the bird were watching over Rumi in the very last scene of the film. When Rumi, Mira, and Zoe are greeting their fans on the street, you can see that the tiger demon and the bird are watching over Rumi. So I like to think that Jinu is still with Rumi, and like, you know, those two creatures are still watching over her and making sure that she's safe. And then my final thoughts. Does K-Pop Demon Hunters live up to the hype? Short answer, yes, I think that it does. Like I said, I would have loved for the ending to have been a little bit more fleshed out, and I think that it would have done super well as a TV show, but I thought that this movie was so fun and so funny, genuinely made me laugh out loud several times. It was so rich in Korean culture. It had incredible music. It emphasizes the power of friendship and music as a means to bring people together and to unite people as one, which were themes that I just really relate to in my own personal life. So I would say yes, K-Pop Demon Hunters lives up to the hype. I have already seen lots of people speculating about the potential of a sequel, and I hope so badly that we do get more from K-Pop Demon Hunters, whether it be a true sequel in the form of just another movie, or whether it be a spin-off TV show that gives us a little bit more. I would welcome both of those. I think right now the biggest theory is that Jinu is not actually gone forever. He could come back, because when he gives his soul to Rumi, his soul, you can see it actually goes into her sword, and you can see that her sword changes when Jinu's soul goes into it. Because of that, I think that Jinu could make a return. I don't think that he's gone forever because his soul is in Rumi's sword. So I think that a sequel would be able to give us the opportunity to explore Jinu coming back, maybe being able to come back as a human, or being able to come back and live a redeemed life after he gave up himself and sacrificed himself to save Rumi. I really hope that we do get more from K-Pop Demon Hunters in the future, because I love this movie so much and I love the animation style of it. I just think it was truly a really wonderful and joyful movie to watch, and I'm going to be keeping my fingers crossed that we will get news about a sequel sometime soon. Okay, and now we are going to move on to things that I think would help fill the void that K-Pop Demon Hunters has left in your life. And we are, of course, going to start with books. If you are new to Rara's K-Pop Spot, reading has been my favorite hobby for my entire life. I have had a book in my hand ever since I could walk. So we are obviously going to start with book recommendations. However, if you are not a reader, if you are not into books, that's okay. I have a limited amount of other backup options for you. There were several books that came to mind when I was thinking of books that match the vibes of K-Pop Demon Hunters. So I have narrowed it down to the ones that I think would be the most closely aligned with different aspects of K-Pop Demon Hunters. However, this is by no means an exhaustive list. I'm sure that there are books out there that I haven't read yet that would match the vibe. These are just books that I have on my shelf that I think fit the vibes. If you are online and also are part of the Bookstagram community, I'm sure that you have seen some of these recommendations already circulating. My first recommendation would be Darker by 4 by Jun Seol-tan. This was actually one of my top reads from 2024. I cannot tell you enough how much I love this book. Like, I cannot urge you enough to read this book. It has angry monster hunter girl with swords, magic swords, okay? Right there, huge check mark. It has very cute official art for the characters, but you have kings of hell, okay? You have best friend with pink hair. I think that Darker by 4 is probably the most closely aligned with K-Pop Demon Hunters, minus the K-pop. It doesn't have K-pop, but from the Demon Hunter aspect, super closely aligned. You have Reapers, you have magic. It is a Chinese urban fantasy inspired book. It has the reincarnated soulmate trope that you find in lots of C-dramas. So if you love K-Pop Demon Hunters and you like to read and you have not read Darker by 4, you need to do yourself a favor. You need to pick this one up as soon as humanly possible. This is a duology, and the second and final book in the series comes out early next year. It's called Brighter Than 9. I think it comes out in March of 2026, so not too long that we have to keep waiting. My second recommendation would be Gorgeous Gruesome Faces by Linda Ching. This book actually follows a K-pop girl group trio, okay, who are also battling supernatural forces and vengeful spirits. I'm not making this up. This is crazy. This came out in 2023, the very end of 2023, so it came out well before K-Pop Demon Hunters, but the connections go crazy with this one. And this one does have some darker themes. It does contain like some body horror and some things that might not be suitable to super young readers. But it's like K-Pop Demon Hunters if Huntrix kissed each other. It is sapphic romance, so it has that going for it as well. This one has everything except for a competing demon boy group. This one has everything except for K-pop. If these two were merged into one book, you would literally probably have K-Pop Demon Hunters as a book. So these would be my two biggest recommendations. I also loved Gorgeous Gruesome Faces. It was one of my favorite books from 2023. So these both got 5 gigantic stars from me. Next recommendation, we have The God and the Gumiho by Sophie Kim. This follows the fallen trickster god Sokka and the scarlet fox Gumiho Hani. Sokka spends his days hunting demons, and in order to be reinstated as a god, he is tasked with hunting down the scarlet fox and a demon of darkness that has escaped the underworld. And Hani does not want to be captured, so obviously she teams up with Sokka to lead him off the trail of the scarlet fox. And there's a lot of banter, and they're hunting demons together, and it has a lot of good Korean mythology included throughout. So I think that this could fill that Korean mythology, fantasy, demon hunting lore that you might be looking for. If you are looking for just K-pop romance, look no further than XOXO by Axio and ASAP by Axio. These two can be read independent of one another. However, the characters of ASAP are introduced to you in XOXO. So if you want to really enjoy the story of ASAP, I would recommend starting with XOXO, but they do take place independently of one another, and they are true K-pop romances. So if you are just looking for some K-pop romance fluff, I recommend Axio's works for that. Also falling into the K-pop romance category would be Once Upon a K-Prom by Kat Cho. Elena and Robbie are childhood best friends until Robbie moves away to Seoul to become an idol trainee. But before he moves away, he promises that he will come back to take Elena to prom, and he holds true to his promise. So, promise. I didn't even mean that. That was funny. So, K-pop romance, Kat Cho also has you covered. More idol romance from Kat Cho, you also have Wish Upon a K-Star, which is idol and actor romance. So, Axio and Kat Cho, they have you covered for K-pop romance. If you are looking for more Korean mythology-inspired young adult works, Kat Cho also has her Wicked Fox duology, which is very much steeped in Korean mythology. This one is also wonderful. If you're looking to kind of fill the mythology void, the fantasy void that K-Pop Demon Hunters has left in your life. But in super exciting news, Kat Cho has also come on Instagram and let us know that she has an unannounced book that is coming out in 2027, so there's not many details out about it yet because it hasn't even been announced, but she came online and she let us know that she does have another book coming out in 2027 that is apparently Saja Boy's demon aesthetic, is what she said, and is based on Reaper Saja mythology. There are no details about this yet, but I will be watching Kat Cho's Instagram page like a hawk waiting for updates about this one because I am very excited. Even if it means having to wait a couple of years, I will be keeping that one on my radar for sure. So those would be all of my book recommendations. Like I said, I'm sure there are tons more out there. Please, if you have other recommendations that fall into this category, let me know in the comments because I would love more recommendations, honestly, for things that fit this category that can fill the void in my heart as well. If you don't like to read, that is totally fine. I know that reading is not everyone's cup of tea, and I do have at least one, I think, very good recommendation for you. If you're not into books, this would be more for people who are like into gaming. Even if you're not into gaming, I don't want to scare people away because I am not the biggest gamer. I don't even know if I could call myself a gamer. I play couch co-op video games with my sister, but that's pretty much the extent of it. I don't ever play true video games on my own. I like need my sister there for emotional support. However, my sister, who I would say is a gamer, she did get me into this game, and it is a phone game, and it is called Love and Deepspace. And I was very hesitant to get into this because I was like, I wouldn't even consider myself a regular gamer, and now you want me to play a video game on my phone? I don't know how I feel about that, but I would say that Love and Deepspace is very non-gamer friendly, if that makes sense. There is a little bit of a learning curve to the game, but it is very enjoyable, and it doesn't really feel like a video game. It feels more like, I want to say almost like you're playing The Sims or something. Like it's not like there are really high stakes. There's just stuff that you go into the app and do every day, but I have recommended Love and Deepspace because it is literally a demon hunter game. So it does take a lot of storage on your phone. So that is the one drawback, is like if you don't have much storage on your phone, this might not be an option because it does take a lot. But you come in and you have like tasks that you do every day. So even if you are not into gaming, it gives you an agenda, like a task list of things to check off every day. So you don't have to come in here and just wonder what you're supposed to be doing. It gives you stuff to do, so it like kind of guides you. It's okay. But the lore is that you are a hunter, and it takes place far in the future in a city that I think is very, very closely based off of Shanghai. It's either Shanghai or Hong Kong, I forget which one, but it takes place in the future after the Deepspace rift has opened up and let wanderers, are what the demons are called. It's this rift in space that lets wanderers pass through into this place you live that's called Lincoln City. And you're a hunter, so you work for the Hunters Association and you hunt the demons or the wanderers. Like that's your job. You go out and you detect disturbances in metaflux is what it's called, and you go out and you fight the wanderers. There's a little Wikipedia page almost, it's called Spacepedia, where you can go and you can read all about the lore and everything. So it is a lot, but if you ever are confused about something that's happening or you need to reference it, you can come into Spacepedia and read about it. There are people who have these things called evols, which basically gives you powers. There are 5 men in the game that you associate with, and each one of them has a different evol. You know, you could be able to control ice or gravity, fire, things of that nature. So like if you have an evol, you have some kind of like ability to manipulate the elements around you or the space around you. And it is just like incredibly complex, and I am probably doing a crap job of trying to explain it right now, but it is so fun. You come in here and you have your daily tasks that you do, you have battles that you can fight in, and there's also a storyline. So you have battles where you fight wanderers, and it's okay if you're not good at fighting in video games, because I certainly am not. There is an auto option. You can just turn on auto and they'll fight the battles for you. You can see here like your little hunter, she's here, and then she's with one of her companions, and you're literally fighting these demons together. You're fighting these wanderers. So if you're looking for demon hunting or like demon fighting type things to fill the void that K-pop Demon Hunters left in your life, please try out Love and Deepspace. Look at them go. There is a storyline that you follow, and so it's not just like you come in here and you have your tasks and you do your little fights or whatever. You have an actual laid out storyline that explains the rift in deep space that happened years ago, and you have these companions, these men that you like form these relationships with. And you have the N109 zone, which is like a super dangerous area to go into, and you have this organization called Anakainis, which is trying to utilize protocors to control the metaflux or something like that. I know that there's a lot of terminology that I probably am like super messing up right now, but it's all in Spacepedia. If you ever forget what these things are or what they mean, you can always look it up in Spacepedia. It is just honestly an incredibly good storyline. It's super compelling. Your character as a hunter, her family was killed when the Deep Space Rift opened up years ago, and she has an ether core fragment in her heart. In the storyline, you have different sections, and each section kind of focuses on a different companion. You meet Xavier, Zane, and Raphael first, and then Silas, and then Caleb. But they are still coming out with new chapters in the storyline. If you are looking for something that is fantasy and demon hunters, and also 5 attractive animated men, then look no further than Love in Deepspace. These are your 5 companions that you meet throughout the game, and you can like focus on building relationships with any one of them, or all of them if that's your thing. It's so hard to adequately explain Love in Deepspace without going like super confusing into all of the details of it. It's something that you kind of just have to try out for yourself and see if it's something that you enjoy, because it does you can get like super granular with the details and the lore and everything, but I highly recommend it. It is super fun and like very low stakes, because the battles you can fight on auto, and you can really just go in and like do your daily tasks and follow the storyline. It feels almost like watching a TV show. Like you tune in every day and you do your chapters or whatever, you're moving through the storyline. It feels like you're watching a TV show. It's really good. Another recommendation that I have for filling the void would be watching TXT's Eternally dance practice video that is Demon Hunters version that they just dropped. This was clearly filmed a few years ago and they've just been holding on to it, and I think that they picked clearly a perfect time to release it. Eternally is one of the TXT songs that I forget about, but it is one that I like. Every time I listen to it, like the way it flips back and forth, the vibe changes so quickly. I really love this dance practice, the way that they changed the vibe, and it's literally called Demon Hunters version. So if you need some K-pop demon hunting action in your life, watch Tomorrow by Together's dance practice for Eternally. And I have noticed some boy groups on Instagram have started doing the Soda Pop dance challenge. Last night, the first group I saw do it was Zero Base One. So I am very excited. I'm hopeful that other groups will do the Soda Pop challenge, because I think that's just so funny. Specifically, I kind of hope that Tomorrow by Together will do the Soda Pop challenge, because they are obviously a boy group with 5 members. And I also heard online, I don't know if this is true or not, but allegedly I heard that when they were writing K-Pop Demon Hunters, they pulled inspiration from Tomorrow by Together when they were writing and creating the Saja Boys. So I am hopeful that Tomorrow by Together will do the Soda Pop challenge, but in general, I just hope that more groups will come on and do the Soda Pop challenge, boy groups and girl groups. And I also hope that some groups maybe do a dance challenge from Huntrix as well. I know that this was a lot of talking, but I just had so many thoughts and so many things that I wanted to share about K-Pop Demon Hunters. I hope that you find joy and enjoyment in some of the recommendations that I shared to try and fill the void. I hope that we get news about a sequel sometime soon. I hope we don't have to wait too long. I really loved this movie. I think that honestly it's enjoyable for most audiences, if I would have to say. So I hope that if you have not watched it yet, maybe this encourages you to give it a try, because it really is just like such a good film. And if you have any other recommendations, I know one of the big categories I left out was other movies and TV shows that might like match the vibe of K-Pop Demon Hunters, but books and Love in Deepspace were just the first things that came to my mind. If you can think of anything that fits the vibe of K-Pop Demon Hunters that I did not include in this video, please let me know in the comments, because I would love some more recommendations, and I will just be here keeping my fingers crossed for news about a potential sequel sometime in the future. But thank you so much for watching this video and for sticking with me to the end if you did. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time on Rara's K-pop spot. But I think that that is it for today. So bye friends, thank you for watching. 보아주셔서 감사합니다. 안녕 친구들. And I guess we can go to bloopers now. I'm sure I have like a couple of things to put in there because I never don't not bloop. So anyway, we can go to the blooper reel now. 이제 블루퍼리로 이동할 수 있습니다. 즐기세요. Did I even hit record? Oh, Shin. God. 내 채널에 다시 오신 것을 환영합니다. Why am I struggling with that today? 환영합니다. 환영합니다. Well, does it ever really go away? Rah-rah, explosive, nerdy, fun time? Being verbose is a curse that I cannot escape. Thank you, Claire On, for that. That quote really hit me hard when I first read I Guess I Live Here Now. A cat, 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 cat. Scene of the film. It's my dog who like dies in an explosion but then didn't actually die. Okay, this is getting super jargony, probably way too technical. That escaped me today. Bye!